Hey, I'm Ralph from Mousesports, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello. Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 167 coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The time 8:41 p.m. The date July 22nd, 2019. This might just be the best episode ever, as we are going to recap IEM Chicago. We have rule changes galore, whether it be in Overwatch League, Counter-Strike Majors, Fortnite. We're not going to so much talk about the actual rules themselves, but just the damned if they do, damned if they don't nature that developers have to go with and trying to balance out the leagues and all that fun stuff. And of course, we'll have e-news as always, our weekly segment where we get to things that we just don't have time for. If you don't already, be sure and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. All the latest show news there. You can follow us on Discord. Our link is in the profile there as well. And we also stream every show live, just about every show. Unless we have like breaking news, like Overwatch League news, like last week. We stream them all live on Twitch. And as Ace Nelson will tell you in the chat, late start. Yeah, that's typical of us. 8:30 is that's a lie, and I can tell you that. I don't maybe once out of the 167 episodes we've ever started on time, but that's okay. That's okay. The fans will wait. The true listeners. The true ringers, which is what I'm going to slowly work in to call our listeners. The ringers. You like it?
This is why we start late on purpose, though, is to see who the true fans are.
That's right.
We could start on time. We were just sitting here, waiting.
Thousands of people were in the chat. And, now look. Now there's only two. So, true fans. Right there. Right there. Let's say hi to the crew. Hello. My name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports. And as always, alongside me is Anuj. Hello, Anuj.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just got a little burst of energy right before the show, you know? I'm always so tired in our pre-show meeting, and then you hit the live button, and you get about 5 minutes of high energy, Tim.
Mondays, dude. Mondays.
It's rough. It's rough. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Before we get too far into the details, always want to remind you about Thrive Fantasy, the daily fantasy sports app for prop bets. You can go sign up right now. Use the code TCR. Get it? It's the name of the show. And you will get $10 for free with your first $10 deposit. Just like that, you're already a winner with Thrive Fantasy. That's THRIVE. You can go to their website. You can also just look them up in the App Store with your respective device. Download it. When you sign up, use the code TCR. We had IEM Chicago wrap up this week. And honestly, not that big a tournament. We won't lie. Out of the scale of all the Counter-Strike tournaments that go on, it's not the biggest.
It's a good, it's a really good mid-tier tournament. Like in this sense, from a pros, like tier 1 scale, right? It's not a major. It's not a top tier like Cologne, Katowice. But it's in that next tier right underneath that. Still an Intel, like Masters tournament, ESL tournament. Still
it would count for a Grand Slam, would it not? Would it?
It does. It
Okay.
does.
If that wasn't already wrapped up. But that's besides the point.
Somebody already won it that quick?
They did change the rules to the Grand Slam. I don't have it pulled up here in front of me, but in short, they made it to where they can't win as quickly.
you have to win a Cologne or Katowice event to go along with your other Intel Masters events to get a total of 4. If you don't win one of those, then I think you have to win 5 in that calendar time.
Yeah.
It's like
Um,
something like that.
so spoiler alert with IEM Chicago, Liquid ended up winning again. I believe it is their 6th straight tournament to take home the trophy. Just an unreal storyline, which we'll get to here in a second. Let's talk about the ones that were less fortunate, though. You had Envy and Renegades bringing up the rear at 7th and 8th. Not much to say about Renegades. I don't really know where they've been lately. I feel like ever since
Yeah, I
Nav
mean,
kind of left, it's just been
with Renegades, they not only lost NAF, but they lost Nifty as well, right? So,
nifty. That's what I meant,
um,
not Naft.
well, NAF was on there for a short period of time.
Yeah, but I don't know how much.
But like looking at
Like
NAF's
Nifty was
performance,
Renegades. Like when he was on the team, like that was their bread and butter, and when he
yeah,
left, it
like
was
Nifty JKS combo were definitely like the 1-2 punch. JKS hasn't been able to carry the load, since Nifty is gone. They picked up Gratisfaction, which I thought was a really good move. He's a great opper, like fairly consistent. Um, Jakeem, which for those that don't know him, he's been in this scene for a really long time and been part of, like, I believe Dignitas. He was also part of FaZe for a period of time, like the original FaZe CS:GO roster. And so he was also a recent acquisition, been playing well. The person I've been disappointed with there is like Liaz. Liaz had a really good first showing in his first tournament, and then like really haven't heard much of him since. So, um, they got to find their form. But being in a tournament like this is also incredibly difficult. Like I felt like we could all pick the
yeah.
bottom 2 teams going into this just because of their
Well,
competition.
and a few things to point out. As Anuj just mentioned, it's a smaller tournament, but yet the competition was pretty stiff as far as it was very top heavy. So a lot of these teams went in damn well knowing that there was not a chance that they were going to win. It was there for an experience thing. This is the last tournament before the players break, before the major. So now we have about a month or so um, before we get into the Berlin major and get into the thick of that. So there's a lot of reasons of importance for this. You had Team Envy, as we mentioned, get 7th as well, or 8th, however you want to look at it. They also had kind of a misfortune where this was the first event, the first big event for Envy for a long, long time. I mean, ever since they went back into Counter Strike after ditching the French squad, they bought they bought what roster was it? They purchased a roster basically to get an ESL Pro League spot, but I forget what
Yeah.
the team was.
Oh Lord, I'm drawing a blank right now. Also,
Regardless,
that,
they bought
half that
that.
squad is gone anyway.
Exactly. And they really haven't been in the spotlight since then. They ended up qualifying for Chicago, which was a huge thing for the team. And then, don't you know, they played one match and Nifty is out. He is sick. I guess like a bug hit him. So now their coach, Ellie, had to step in. And, what can you do? What can you say? It's bad luck. It's bad timing, but that's just it.
I thought you were gonna say the problem here was they played Liquid in their first game,
Well,
and
again,
so that's
that's what I'm
such a
saying. Like,
tough
there's
way.
so much. Not only so you have your full roster, and then you play Liquid right out the gate, and then you're playing the rest of the event with your coach. So it's just it
Like when the
sucks. But
first
what do you
match
say?
went 16-1, you knew you were probably gonna be in trouble
They
here.
took
Like,
7 rounds total against Liquid. They went 16-1 on Vertigo and 16-6 on Mirage.
yeah, it's a tough way to start a tournament. I mean, you talk about momentum killer. Obviously, mentally you should be able to regather yourself and be like, look, we just played the best team that's like out of the way,
Yeah, I
right?
don't think.
But it puts you in a must-win situation right there, because if you go 0-2, you're out, right? You don't get an opportunity to play that third additional
Right.
best of
Hell,
3
after
game.
they
And
played
so,
Liquid, Android even tweeted out saying like, "GG Liquid, no doubt you're gonna win this event." Like they weren't even eliminated at the time. Like Envy still technically stood a chance at winning the event. He was like, "No, GG,
nah, y'all are
this
too
one's for
good.
you." This one's for you.
The game that they did have a chance. Obviously, they got to play MIBR. MIBR also playing with the coach, right? Like Cole Zera is no longer on the roster. He is benched or getting ready to be sold, whatever you want to call it. So he's in waiting, and so Zeus stepped in, and now only difference here is like Zeus is not your typical coach. I feel like we've seen Zeus at about 5 events over the last like 2 years, right? 2-3 years. He's
Yeah.
had to step in at various times and like have some additional experience there, but he looked good, right? I mean, they played well, and MIBR was able to take a 2-1 and knock MV out, unfortunately.
Fifth and sixth place, you had Heroic and G2. There's that.
A little disappointed for the French there. G2 had been playing. I don't want to say they were playing amazing, but they were starting to look a little bit better. Um, they've moved up to number 7, 8 in the world now at this point. So they've also been on the climb, and so you're kind of hoping to see a little bit more from them. I mean, they fell a little flat. There's not much more to say in terms of what they were able to do. They had a tough time. They weren't able to hit on all cylinders, which they need to do in order to beat some of these teams. I think losing to MIBR is a killer personally for them. I think for Envy, again, a little different. They both had a coach in. Um, Plus, MIBR is expected to win that matchup. G2 really should have been able to take that game to him. I mean, that was a disappointing loss. That was to qualify and make it into the next round, and get a chance to be in the playoff stage. So for them losing to MIBR I mean, got to feel pretty killer and demoralizing because you just lost to a team that's not performing well. Plus, they have their coach in, so it's like a double whammy.
And we've discussed MIBR. They were tied for third and fourth with Vitality. We've already talked about MIBR, so I don't want to spend too much time on them. Did you have any final thoughts with that?
They should feel pretty decent
I
about
was gonna say
themselves.
with
I thought
these,
that
it's
was
like when you have a coach filling in, it's just you don't want to be too critical of the roster, right? Like you're playing with house money at that
yeah,
point.
yeah. What are you
So
supposed to like?
I would hate to
What are
be
your
critical over them.
expectations, right? Like
Yeah, none.
realistic
It's
expectations where
low,
if we
low,
get
low
top four,
expectations.
that's probably good, right? Like top four is a win in their eyes. Walk out with a cool 25K. No, but seriously, MIBR looked better today than they have with Cold, and I don't know, not to say obviously that Cold is a bad player. That's not what I'm saying. But the chemistry is just all out of whack over there. And so for them, you take it as a positive. I just don't know how much you're supposed to do leading into the major being prepared. Like, I mean, in the major, I guess you're praying for gimme legend stage again, right? Um, and possibly keep that, but
Keeping that
they don't have
spot.
not a lot of hope for them right now until we know what they do with their fifth. They said they're not picking up anyone from Furia because A, their contract situation, B, they don't have all the interest in the world right now. So I don't know what they're going to do with the permanent fifth. It's going to be interesting.
Vitality ended up getting third and fourth. And then for second place, you had Ints, and of course for first, we mentioned you had Liquid. Now I didn't get to watch a whole lot of Vitality at this event. I mean, did you see any? I mean,
I watched the Vitality and Liquid matchup, so I mean they did get manhandled there for the most part. Liquid is really just playing at another level, and we can kind of transition this into almost liquid conversation from Vitality here because Ents will naturally come up in this as well. Um, but Vitality, this was a big rematch opportunity for them. They've played fairly well against Liquid. I mean, they've kind of been able to show the ability for like Zywoo to be able to take over and do that. But Liquid was fairly dominant. Both the map choices for both of them were strong map choices for both teams, Dust 2 and Overpass alike. Both teams play really well. Like Vitality and Liquid have a similar map pool, so that doesn't really favor Vitality there. But Liquid really is starting to look like they're just at another level.
you know what?
Like they're really just at another level.
Something I noticed or I realized with this event and Liquid is when Astralis was kind of picking up steam, it was kind of obvious like what they did differently, and it was their utility play, and that's what everyone said, right? Like we even talked to them when they were here for ESL, is like,
Hmm.
what do you guys do differently? And they all said, no, we do focus at using our utilities uh, smartly, right? and you see other teams doing it as well. In fact, you did see a play when they were playing Ents. I believe it was on Inferno, where albeit it was an eco round for Ents, but still, like one frag ended up getting like 3 or 4 dudes, right? So they started using their utility better. You saw them picking that up from Astralis' strat. But other than that, they're just playing well. Like, what is it that they're doing so unique that other teams aren't doing? And they really, to me, aren't like, there's nothing that stands out other than everyone is playing as one. Like, we've talked about it last week. The fact that they've won 6 in a row and they've had like what 3 or 4 different MVPs throughout those events, I think speaks a lot of volume to where it's not like they've reinvented the wheel at trying to figure out Counter-Strike, almost like how Astralis did, or back in the day with uh like Fnatic, or even you might be able to say MIBR with how just Cold played with the sniper and everything. Liquid is just playing solid.
It's everybody. Like this, so you talked about Astralis, right? And we say, oh, the utility was a big factor in them taking it to the next level. Well, the other thing is they have like 5 players that are in the top 25 players in the world on that roster. And that really helps, right? To have talent. And so it's not that they were just far and away. I mean, initially, yes, the way they started using their utility was different, but people caught on to that fairly quick. Like, oh, look, Charles is doing it this way. Like, we should do it too. It doesn't take that long for people to start copycatting one another. It helps to have 5 really good players. You see that same formula here with Liquid. It's really eerily similar. You have 5 incredible individual players. It's safe to say Nitro has elevated himself to a top 20, top 25 player in Counter Strike fairly easily. And with Nitro, it's becoming more and more impressive every time you watch because he's getting a lot more comfortable with calling. But at the same time, he's become an elite rifler and an elite opper while being an in-game leader. And so his game going to the next level, plus just the consistency of the other players, you always see performances out of Twist and Elige, right? Like I can't think of the last time one of them had a bad game. Stewie does his job incredible. I mean, Stewie's addition to this team was somewhat questioned because of how the performance was in MIBR, and it just never really clicking there.
Right.
But they found a way to just utilize him so well, and he like really just does an amazing job as an entry fragger for him. I mean, it's just secondary op. It's just so they're all so able. They're also versatile, right? And
Yeah.
you kind of see that across the board with these guys. So again, Liquid is doing it with obviously tactically, but they're just 5 really good individual players that are all just kind of hitting their stride right now. It's unfortunate that we now have this month break leading into the major because you kind of wanted to see this exact form heading
Well, you
into
don't
it,
you
and
don't want to
I
see them.
hope they
You would
keep
hate
it.
to see them lose momentum and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden bounce before they make it to the finals at the major. Like honestly, because for them it's either major or bust at this point, so they have to at least make the finals. You do have a players break, so you wonder if this momentum can go. I've been seeing a lot of talk on Twitter and Reddit about comparing this to the eras, right? You had the Fnatic, the SKs, the Astralis era. I don't. I'm gonna preface this with Liquid is the number one team in the world. They are amazing, and you can't take this 6 tournament run away from them. That being said, let's pump the brakes on what we're calling an era nowadays. Like, you don't make a dynasty by making it, to the playoffs or making it to the finals. You get a dynasty by winning the majors, right? No one looks at the Buffalo Bills and thinks, man, remember when they made the Super Bowl 4 years in a row? What a dynasty. Like, that just doesn't happen. And it's just, does it suck that you look at teams like that and think, well, you never won the big one, so were you even that good? I agree. It's idiotic thinking, but that's just the way it is, right? That's the way sports are. And esports to me are no different in that light. Where, yep, winning all this is great, we said Cologne was the major that never was. Yeah, that was a huge tournament, but it still just doesn't have the title as a major. And I
Yeah.
still would like to think that the title of a major holds a lot of value to these players. And it should. I mean, even for fans, right? Say what you want about some tournaments meaning more or how the format for majors can be different or anything like that, but I just think that to really call this an era, I mean, really, you should have two majors to call it a dynasty, to call it an era. But maybe with the way Liquid's been performing, you can get away with one. It
If
would
they
be a
get
good
just
run. It would be a good
I a
run. I
hun-
don't know if it would be an era.
that's exactly what it is right now. Right now, Liquid is on one of the best stretches we have ever seen in Counter Strike history. But it's not an era yet, right? And it's definitely not a dynasty. I mean, dynasty to me is coming from a traditional sports side is 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. Like really almost 3 out of 4 feels like, well, when we talk dynasties. Now, granted, games have only been around for so long, so it's
Well,
hard
and like the
to do.
esports life table is so much different, right? Like
Exactly,
if you
exactly.
have
So
a
even, but
span of a year, that's pretty impressive.
I do think like two, majors puts you into that dynasty era or dynasty talk. But they're just having one of the best stretches of Counter Strike individually right now. Their last 6 tournament run that they're on is some of the best we're ever going to see in the game. Like it's going to be really hard for another team to come in and win 6 tournaments, 2 or 3 of them being fairly large scale tournaments. Like that's just really hard to do. But yeah, definitely pump the brakes on the era talk. They have to get a major under their belt. And they have to do it like really at this next one because even if you lose this one and they have a little bit of a fall off, like unless they're winning every event after, you're gonna kind of lose the taste in your mouth in terms of like, oh, look how amazing they are right
Hmm.
now. Which again, not taking anything away, they are amazing. That they're such a good team, and
But
no
if
one's
you
gonna
lose
take away
this
the
one and win the
6 run stretch.
next, it doesn't turn into a dynasty talk. It turns into a comeback story.
Yeah,
Like it's just how it
no,
works.
I agree. I know that they do need to take Berlin. I think it's crucial to their like history in this part of Counter Strike that they win this major. I don't even think going to the finals and like losing to an Astralis or name anybody else, Vitality or something like that. I mean that it would kind of kill that momentum or that discussion completely in my mind.
Yep. So that's IEM Chicago, and looking forward for the players break and how Team Liquid might be shaping up, and other teams. Roster locks are in and everything, but obviously things can always change, as we have learned with the latest announcement. As let's get into our next discussion, as rule changes, and I say this not to break down the different rules. We've talked about that in recent episodes about Overwatch going 2-2-2. The Fortnite World Cup, they added in the patch with airstrikes and everything 2 weeks before the World Cup, which is pretty insane. And then just recently, what kind of sparked this up again was Star Ladder announced that they are changing up the rules for the Berlin Major coming up, where before the only way you could probably explain it better. They now essentially what it is that coaches can now play for rosters. It can play like if you have a coach, like for example, MIBR had Cold drop out of the roster, so now Zeus can play in. And before that wasn't considered an emergency or something like that. Is that correct? Am I
Yeah,
explaining
so
this
like
properly?
a roster change did not count as like an emergency situation. Like it was like illness or something that would count. Now, if you have a coach on, listed as somebody listed as a coach, they can essentially fill in at any point. Like there's really no stopping them from being able to sub him out or you trading a player during this roster lock time frame and then letting your coach come in and play.
Hmm.
So
Which
they
this
like they loosened
they
the
loosened up the
rules,
rule. The
right?
rule was kind of always there, but kind of, you know, they loosened it up specifically for MIBR.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
just so conveniently happened that this rule was adjusted right after Cold was announced that no, we're not going to use him for the major, and now they're like, well, okay, we can't lose MIBR because that would go like 80% of the Brazilian viewership right there, and you can't do that. So they adjusted this rule to have them play. And of course, the Twitter sphere and everywhere online kind of perked up a little bit, saying that it's BS, it's garbage, it's playing favoritism to the bigger orgs. Because keep in mind, this is after the roster lock for the major. This
Yeah.
is after certain teams have been affected by this. Like, there are teams that have had to drop out because their roster had issues and they couldn't get their coach in or anything like that. And so obviously, rightfully so, there is bitterness across the landscape for CS:GO going into this major. And it got me thinking, is it wrong to adjust the rules to have like a team like MIBR able to play? I don't know where I landed. I don't think I ever came up with a decision myself, because it's really kind of a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation. And that goes along with all these. I think of Overwatch League, right? Just officially announced that going forward in the game and in Overwatch League, they're going to do 2-2-2 comps. So the 3-3, the GOATS meta is officially going to go away. Now, this is something that people have been asking, and I myself have been preaching that they should have done at the All-Star break, mid-season. You had like a 2-month window that you could have made this change, and you had a good stopping point. And now it just seems kind of weird that they do it with one stage left to go. Like, that just, to me, kind of throws off the entire integrity of Season 2 for Overwatch League. It truly does. Like, you have teams like the Vancouver Titans that have, their bread and butter were GOATs. And now it's a mystery on what will happen to them. You have teams like the Dallas Fuel, who have been pretty trash, to say the least. And now this is perfect for them coming up. It's going to create a lot of drama, and as a show who likes talking about drama and, covers the news, it works perfectly for us. But for me, it does affect the integrity of the season just a little bit. Just a little bit. And to me, it's, again, another perfect lose-lose situation, right? They don't make the change. Everyone continues to complain about GOATs and how it's boring to watch and no one likes playing Overwatch. So they make the change and everyone laughs at them because they can't figure out their own league.
Yeah, so the thing is, I love all the changes that were made, right? Every change that we talked with Overwatch that they've made with the 2-2-2 lock, the Counter-Strike roster lock, loosening that up. Like, I really like the changes that they made. It's just the timing is like, just kind of blows me away in both situations. And then you want to bring even Fortnite into the mix with Fortnite's consistent updates. We talked about it last week, how they have now implemented airstrikes into the game right before the World Cup goes off. I don't mind any of these changes that they're making. It's just the timing is odd in all three situations. For Counter-Strike, they've never changed roster lock rules, mid-tournament.
Right.
You never do that, like, mid-tournament. It's just an odd thing to do, and it was very obvious. Like, it was the VP treatment that we saw a couple years ago, right? Where I forgot the exact situation that it was, but the tournament made it was ESEA. They allowed them back into Pro League or whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like
That's
a new
the VP
wild card
rules,
game,
right?
Yeah, it's like the VP rules,
The VP
right?
rule is where when a pro team all of a sudden gets relegated, and you didn't really want that pro team relegated, you all of a sudden
We're
create a
gonna
wild
create
card
this
tournament.
one game wild card system for you in VP. We're gonna go ahead and select you to play in it. So
How
it's kind of the VP treatment with the timing just being really odd. Again, the Overwatch 2-2-2 lock, like, I'm really happy that they did it. Like, I really truly am.
Of
As, like,
course.
somebody that watches Overwatch very casually, I feel like I'm a lot more excited to see what happens in this upcoming season. And that's obviously why they did it, because it's going to generate a lot of buzz going into stage 4, right? You're going to have people that are maybe a casual watcher go in and watch it more often, which in turn they'll go watch the playoffs when those actually happen. And so you probably can generate more buzz that way. For a player's standpoint, though, Lord, I couldn't agree with you more. For Overwatch players right now, I really can't imagine how these teams feel internally.
Well,
There's such polar opposites
now
of,
what's funny
emotions
though
that are
is that
going on.
the reports are is that it was a unanimous vote. Like all the players and all the teams did agree for 2-2-2. And I think it's because, for longevity it does make sense, right? Everyone wanted 2-2-2, and I'm not arguing that. Like I know Ace in our Twitch chat says, that it was always meant, this change was always planned for this time frame, right? I guess my point is that since stage one, people have been complaining about goats, right? Even before the season,
Yes,
people
it's
have
even
been
before.
complaining about goats. And we heard the same crap from Blizzard that we heard before, that that's not how the game was meant to be played. Nope, it will ruin it. We want it to be organic. And then all of a sudden they go back and they're like, you know what, guys, we've been really thinking about this strategy, and we really put our heads together, and we think this will be best for the league and for the game. Well, congratulations, Blizzard. Gee, how did you come up with this conclusion? Is it because everybody was telling you to do this months ago, like 3 stages ago, that this should have been the case?
Not doing it at the mid-season mark is the thing that baffles me. I even get it. Like the beginning of the year, we were complaining about goats, but we were still kind of waiting to kind of see how this all played out. Teams have kind of shuffled themselves around, still excitement heading into a new season, right? So fine, don't make it there. But then you have a month-long break, or plus however long it is for them, and that was the time to implement it. I mean, like you said, even for the top tier teams right now to have this change come in completely just changes the game. Like it's just it's going to be a different game than what you've been watching for the first 3 seasons. So I love the change. I think the change was necessary and it needed to happen. Just the timing. It's all about timing in this
Yeah,
case. Now,
from a
when you say the
competitive
players
integrity
role,
sense, it doesn't make sense
it doesn't
at
make any
all.
sense. Like
At
if
all.
you're
And it
trying to
kind of makes
establish it,
the I don't want to say front office. I don't, I'd be curious to see, because this is happening with both competitive and when I say competitive, I mean like, me and you playing
mhm.
versus Overwatch League. I wonder like who was the driving factor? Was it the Overwatch League going to Blizzard saying, "Dudes, we're doing this because we're losing viewership." Right? Like people are not enjoying this. And then Blizzard was like, well, okay, well, if the Overwatch League is doing it, then we have to change it on the normal player side, right? The casual side. Or was it, look, we're losing player base on this, so we have to change the casual side to 2-2-2, so you have to change Overwatch League to 2-2-2. I mean,
You know, the funny
one
thing
of them
is,
had to have that conversation first.
it's almost in my mind, it could have been both. Like I think both numbers could have not been where they wanted them to be in the sense, hey, this is getting boring from a viewership standpoint, right? So for a casual fan watching the game, there's just too much happening. It's not a clean game to watch. And it's kind of the same repetitive concept over and over and over again, right? You know who you're going to see, you know what picks you're going to see, and then you know how the fight's going to turn out, right? Whoever really gets who in the bubble, you go from there, and it's,
Mm-hmm.
I think viewership was hurting from that standpoint. Then you want to go to the casual, like the you and me playing the game type thing. The experience hasn't been really that fun for a while now because again, I think this is something that as a casual fan, role lock is almost necessary in a game like this. Otherwise, I get into a quick player comp match, and hey, guess what? Nobody wants to tank. Nobody
Right.
wants to heal. We're all gonna play
Yeah.
hit scan DPS. Like, I mean, it's insane, and it's the integrity in the casual gameplay just wasn't there either. So, I almost think it was both of them coming together and being like, okay, we have a lot invested in this product, but we don't have a good product right now. Like, what can we do to turn this around?
Right.
We have the fans, right? The fans are there. We have the players that are capable of playing this game at a high level, but it's not a fun experience at the moment. So, look, it must have been bad enough to where they were like, this change needs to happen now.
Because they
Otherwise,
were
we're
pretty dug in for a long. I mean, they were pretty dug in when people were saying to make the change. Um, so I think, you know, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. Like I've been asking this forever now, because for positions and everything to be in Overwatch League, and now that it's here, it's kind of just a weird timing. But
yeah.
from what Twitch chat is saying, They're absolutely 100% right that part of the reason for doing it now is it creates the buzz, right? What are we doing? We're talking about it. I promise you, Stage 4 starts this week. Those viewership numbers are going to be the highest they've been all season long.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt. Without a freaking doubt, those viewerships numbers are going to be quite nice for the league this week.
Look, I'm tuning in this week, and I don't watch it on a week-to-week
Dude,
basis. So
I am pumped. I'm jazzed for it. Like I said, I feel
yeah,
bad for Titan fans. I feel bad for
I feel
Vancouver
great for
fans.
Fuel fans though.
Fuel fans,
Teams that
Zachary's
are
gonna
on
be,
that teetering
you're
edge,
gonna
like
see
this is a
Timey.
big opportunity.
Philly fans, you're gonna have Carpe coming back. He's gonna have a resurgence. So you're going to see some of your favorite players from season 1 that you might have seen this year, but maybe in a little different role, in a little different light. So don't get me wrong. I'm glad they made the change. I hope it stays this way, right? And I get it, right? Every time there's rule changes that go on in football every year, right? The rules change in regular sports. Just because hockey's been around for 100 years doesn't mean that it's perfect, right? The rules change all the time. But generally, the game looks the same. And so I hope this is the way Overwatch stays, in the sense of like, look, teams will have to figure out their own personal meta and what works best. I think Blizzard tried allowing teams to have this organic growth with meta, and I know a lot of times like the fans were saying like, well, this is a joke of a game that they're trying to dictate it like this, just let it be natural. Well, we've learned that the Overwatch League was such a copycat league that teams were not willing to go out and experiment, and when they did, they would get dominated still. So it just never worked. So I think this allows teams to be less of a copycat, or at least the skill takeover, right? Like you're going to have a Widow duel, and whoever gets that headshot might just, it's between two Widows, and the headshots
like
make
the same
difference.
people that are making that argument are the same people that were probably upset when they blocked playing duplicate characters or something,
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, why can't they just play whoever they want to play? It'd be like Counter-Strike not having any money system, and you just, hey, buy whatever you want from the beginning of the game. Like
create your own meta. Get whatever guns you want.
Do whatever you want, right? Like I think, like I said, everyone that I've at least discussed this with, I feel like most people are on the same page that this is a positive. We talked about the timing, and kind of on the flip side of it, how do you feel about the timing of what Fortnite is doing in terms of their World Cup? Having the airstrike come into the game, and just kind of Fortnite in general, right?
Yeah, so the Fortnite situation to me is a little different. Like with Counter-Strike, does it play favoritism to one particular team? Of course it does, but it's also a business, and that product is MIBR. So I guess when you are one of the top viewed teams in the game, you're going to get a little favoritism thrown to you. Is it fair? No, but that's life. I get it. Overwatch, timing doesn't really rock my boat, but I love the decision, and I love the fact that the league and the game and the developers are willing to listen. So props to that.
Yeah.
The thing with Fortnite is no one was asking for it. No one was like, oh God, I just hope Epic puts in like some game mechanically breaking item 2 weeks before. Like, you know what we need? We just need airstrikes, right? We just got to get airstrikes in this building shooter. And no one was asking for it. And then so Epic did it. And to me, that's the timing for that is almost more egregious than anything else.
They almost get, like I said, I kind of touched on this a little bit in last week, is they almost get a pass in my mind because they're like notorious for doing this stuff. It doesn't matter whether it's a summer skirmish.
It's laughable at this point, right? Like,
yeah,
you
like
almost should be expecting, like, what dumb thing is Epic going to do before their biggest tournament coming in?
Let's throw guided rocket launchers in the game real quick, or shadow cubes, or zombie invasion. I mean, there's one of 100 things that I feel like Epic has done at this point. I think I have a different take, is I'm okay with it in Epic's case because this is what they've shown to be. Like, whether it's intentional or unintentional, whether they're trolling or stupid, you take your pick on what they're doing over there. But this is how they want the game to be. They want to keep a constantly evolving world, right? Where the map is going to be changing from season to
Hmm.
season. They're going to constantly be throwing in new ideas, stuff that's off the wall thinking, because hey, it's made them $1 billion company so far. So who am I to sit here and be like, no, this is stupid? Maybe this is just how they generate their buzz, right? Is
Right.
you take a game breaking item, throw it in there, and hey, let's
Mix it
see
up.
what happens. Yeah, I mean, like I said, again, it brings it to the conversation table. Do I like it? Like, no, I'm not a huge fan of it, but do I understand what they're doing? Hey, look, at this point, I feel like it's a targeted move. I don't think
Yeah.
this is like some idiot
I mean, it's
back
not
there
gonna
thinking
hurt
of
it at all, right? It's
no,
Fortnite. Now,
it's a
just
$30
again
million
from me
tournament.
being a integrity junkie, I don't like the fact that the game now is different than what qualifying was. Just from a competitive standpoint. For me, wanting to have the most fairness, same thing with Overwatch League, right? I love the change. I don't like the fact that you almost have to put an asterisk next to the season that, 3 quarters were played a different game, right? Complete. I mean, we're not even talking like a little patch here, right? Like Overwatch League, Overwatch is different. It is a different game, just like that.
Yeah.
With Fortnite, it's kind of the same deal where it's like, this is going to completely change scenarios and things like that. So from that standpoint, but again, look what we're doing. We're talking about it, right? So
Hmm.
mission accomplished on Epic's part, and um, you know that actually starts this week too. This weekend is the Fortnite World Cup, so we'll get to see how. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched Fortnite and or played it in months, but I'll probably tune in for the World Cup just to see what happens.
I'm excited for the World Cup. I mean, I don't play it like I used to, but um, I do understand the level of skill it takes to play that game at like a highly competitive level. Not because I have it, it's because I lack it, and I understand what what they're doing differently to be able to be that good. So should be a fun event. Plus, so much on the line. I mean, just so much on the line for it.
So there you go. Let us know what you think of these rule changes or just, rule changes in general. And I'm not so much talking about like little patch updates here and there because I understand, especially with some of these leagues and the way they work, the timing will never be perfect, right? That's just part of it. Like that's esports in general. The timing will never be perfect, but do you feel like it's affecting the integrity of the league in like Overwatch cases? Do you think MIBR shouldn't be allowed to play with their coach? And just it is what it is. Let us know on Twitter or our Discord. So at the Center Ring, we'll have our Discord link and everything in the profile there as well. Let's get into some e-news. That's the words I was trying to say. In CS:GO, we had some of the minors wrap up. NRG and Furia come in from the North American qualifiers. Mouse Sports and Crazy qualify on the EU side. Anuj, give me 10 seconds on Crazy.
Solid team.
Solid team. They're going to be interesting to watch. A lot of up and
No,
coming players.
they do have they played well. They're the old oh man, I'm drawing a blank. They're the old who? Who are they? No, nobody out
Bro,
there.
you got me on that one.
They were a pretty solid roster. I mean, they had a good previous org that they got bought out from, and now I am.
Valiant?
Is that who it was? I believe it was.
Yeah. According to
Yeah.
Wikipedia, anyways.
No, I mean they played well. They were able to. The EU minor was no joke. They knocked Fnatic out, and that says plenty. Fnatic not being there is huge. I mean, just for anybody that's watched Counter Strike since the beginning of the CS:GO days, at least, Fnatic has been a staple at majors. So to not have them in the major, to not see JW, Crims, these guys in the majors is a really big deal. So
But it's not over yet.
unfortunate for
Maybe they'll
them.
have like a third round play it.
They have one
maybe,
last opportunity playing the
maybe
game.
they'll make a rule around that. I believe, who was it? G2 ended up qualifying for the third place playing on the EU side. Am I making that up?
I have that.
I don't have the information in front of me, but I think that's the case. No, I lied. G2 is already returning. I don't know. Don't listen to me. North.
It,
North is
well, North has an opportunity to
yeah,
do a
is in the
minor
third
play-in.
place, right? So North
Yeah.
could still be coming back. So we'll see what happens there. Fnatic and Big are both out. We mentioned that. In other CS:GO news, 100 Thieves, they are returning to the CS:GO scene, as Nadeshot confirmed it in one of his vlogs earlier this week. So we'll see. A lot of buzz as far as whose roster he might pick up. I think a lot of people would like to see him pick up the Optic roster just because, right? 100
They
Thieves
picked up
picking up
everybody
former
else.
Optic, right? I don't know. I don't see that happening. I will be actually pretty shocked if they do pick up Optic, just because I just don't think Nadeshot's going in for like to be a second tier team. You know, I think he wants to be kind of recognized right away. And let's face it, most of you forgot Optic even had a CS:GO roster before they were released. So I don't know. I don't know who else is out there for him to pick up.
That's the odds. It's an odd spot. If he's looking to keep it as NA talent, it's even tougher right now. Because I know there's also rumors of TSM wanting back in as well. So I don't see them wanting to pick up a hodgepodge of characters either, where it's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to be interesting. They have the ability to play wait and see, right? Like 100 Thieves has so much going on right now as an organization with their new facility. They have Worlds coming up for COD. They have their hands in several other esports, so they have the ability to wait. He said they're
Right.
re-entering, didn't necessarily say when.
Didn't say when. He just says they
Yeah.
have the budget. They've moved
Yeah.
money around, and there's the budget for it when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
So we'll, I guess, just have to keep an eye on that. As we mentioned, Stage 4 for Overwatch League is starting this week. Of course, will be the first time we see the 2-2-2 meta come into play. Again, super excited. I know just a couple of minutes ago I might have sounded harsh on Blizzard. I love Blizzard. They've always been good to us. They've always treated us kindly, especially with the Overwatch League. And so I do think it was the right decision. So we'll just have to, again, just a little asterisk next to the season. Little bit of an asterisk for the Titans. So we'll see what happens there, though. In Dota, the International 19 prize pool has officially surpassed $30 million. Take that, Fortnite World Cup, and shove it. Like, everyone was so happy about Fortnite being the largest prize pool ever, and then Dota was just like, no, just hold on. You hold the phone
We're
here.
giving you one extra skin in this pass this time.
So
No, I mean, bro,
ridiculous.
30 million. I don't even know what to say. This has got to be how like a football player looks at NBA contracts. Like he's just like, are you serious? Their bodies are not on the line and they make how much? Like it's crazy to me. $30 million. That's really an outrageous number because we've been doing this show. I've been doing it with you for a little over 2.5 years now, right?
Right.
And this has always come up at this time of, man, look at how large this number is this
broke
year. And
last
I think,
year's
3 years
numbers.
ago it was like 22 million, then 26, and now we're like sitting here at 30.
With still time
It's
to
crazy. Yeah. I mean, this will get up to about probably what, 31-ish?
And it's always so funny too, because you always see like I saw a list this week for esports like income, whatever, right? Like the top paid pros or whatever compared to like the president or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's always Dota players, like always top the list for like top paid esport players. And everyone's like, I've never even heard of this guy though. Like, what the hell? Like, how is he the most paid? This right here is how they're the most paid. Like,
They win this one
$30 million. You could get last place and probably, I don't have the breakdown here in front of me, but still walk away with more money than you would winning a CSGO major. Yeah, they don't have the prize
yeah.
breakdown yet because the prize pool isn't officially set yet.
Mhm.
So
Winning the CS:GO
when that
major
comes
is
out, though, we'll
500K.
definitely have to go.
It was like 500K for a CS:GO major for a
So
champion, right?
Yeah, because it's $1 million prize pool, right?
Yeah. So it's like nothing. Like 30 million. You break it down. How many teams are in the TI? Like you're gonna do fairly well if you're placing
Just
average over there.
looking back at my youth when I played Dota on Warcraft 3, thinking it's kind of boring. This kind of sucks. Stupid, Tim. If I could go back in
Stupid.
time, I would tell myself, you don't play another game for the rest of your life.
Focus.
Play Dota and you enjoy it. Like 30 million, dude. Insane.
Oh man.
Speaking of insane, in Call of Duty, E United defeated Gen G to become the CWL Pro League 2019 champions. What a run by them. Of course, they had the best record for the CWL this season, so good to see that they hold form because you'd hate to see it. I love E United. They're kind of my COD team, if you will. When they were here in Dallas, I gave them a high five when we were outside waiting for the bomb evacuation, so I felt like we really connected there. Also, me and Clayster, man, we go way back. We are the best of buds.
He
as
does
we play-
follow you.
we do follow each other on Twitter. That is correct. And we did play Battalion. What was it?
1944. Still a thing.
Still a thing, as you can see from my recognizing its name. Battalion 1944. We played one time, and I was in a room with Clay, and I clutched it, and I clipped it, and it's on YouTube. And I have no shame in putting it on YouTube to say that I clutched around with Clayster watching me. He also said he would give me a signed jersey because I clutched it, and still waiting on that.
We'll take the follow.
But you know what? We're just buddies. Maybe, I'll wait. He's busy. He's busy.
Wait till
This
next bomb
was
evacuation.
Gen G restarted the brackets. I love bracket resets. The best thing about having a
Look, they crushed him. They didn't just beat him in that initial.
No, it was 3-0.
Yeah,
They crushed
went
them
right
first
through.
round, the first set of the grand finals, crushed them 3-0. And E United has, to me, always had an issue with bouncing back from this. It just seems like they get triggered with themselves and get flustered, and then they fall apart. But good on them because they did the exact opposite and turned it right back around, 3-0ing Gen G on the next set of the finals. So congratulations to E United. Simp was named MVP. This kid graduated high school like just a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, I guess, at this point. So insane. He looked so uncomfortable on stage, though. Did you see when they
all the memes that came from the stage, just the stage part of the ceremony?
That whole roster looked like they didn't know what to do. In Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby won his first race and he was just like didn't know what to do with his hands. That was like
Simp.
3/3 of E United on stage.
Simp was watching
so
Clayster just to see what he was doing, just figured out how to react.
Like, bro, you won. Like, it's okay. Like, get a little loose. Get a little loose.
So what? This was
there.
Clayster's first, major in 1,400 days.
First major tournament in 1,400 days that he won.
That
first time lifting a major
insane.
trophy. So do the math. What is that? 4 years?
5 years? Yeah, like 4 years. It's what a journey to go on, right? Because he's held up a trophy before. It's not like this is his first trophy in his playing career.
He's one of the best players. I mean, ask anyone. You would take him on the team.
And to think that he's gone this long in between it and the constant grind. Not only that, this roster's also had its fair share of issues over time. We've talked about it on this show a number of times of, man, hey, roster talks are up, or roster talks are going on. United somehow involved. There's something going on there. For them to stick it out, I couldn't imagine what he was probably going through yesterday. Like what emotions, highs and lows. He's one of the best people in the community. So we're not only thrilled for the org, but him as an individual. Like, that's a player we like, we'll put our hat on and just be happy to be proud of. And so,
yeah, he's easy to cheer for. So shout out
really
to
is. So that was cool.
My best friend Clayster.
1,400.
In other CWL news, Who knew you would have other CWL news after the season championship? But Evil Geniuses have announced that they will not be participating in CWL franchising. So there you go. The first, as far as I know, first official victim of the franchising coming up next season for CWL, that you have a historic defending world champions, Evil Geniuses, not returning to Call of Duty.
You hate to see it, but I don't think that's going to be the first and only one that we
Nope.
see here.
Of course. I mean, look at, you did it with Overwatch. You had a lot of historical teams not continue with Overwatch. And again, I think it's a necessary evil. I don't even know if evil is the right word, but it's definitely to me, to take esports to that next level, a necessity, even though it might suck.
Look, securing $20+ million of funding is no joke. And that's what most of these orgs would need to do, right? It's not like this is coming straight out of their pocket. They have to go out and get investors. A lot of these investors are already tied to other big orgs. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I think this is going to be the first of many, many that we see.
So there's that. We already talked about the Fortnite World Cup a little bit. Some big names who did not qualify. TSM Myth failed to qualify, and so did Ninja. Do you think that's going to affect the viewership at all?
No, because there's so many just big names in this scene. Like Fortnite's just got 25+ streamers that are all huge top tier streamers. That'll draw a big audience. Plus, the player base is so large, so people are naturally going to be interested. I do think it hurts a little bit, right? But you could expect Ninja to be streaming it or be involved somehow. Same thing with Myth. I'm sure these guys will
They're going to be
somehow
hosting
be
it
involved,
or
whether
something.
they're hosting it or they're there or whatever. There were a lot of big names that didn't make it. I wrote a couple down. Like the whole Liquid roster.
Doesn't need any part of that 30 million.
No, he's okay. He'll go stream it and probably make what the winner's going to make that same day anyway, right?
Yeah, for real.
But the whole Liquid roster didn't make it. Phase Cloak, who was Tfu's partner, he didn't make it. Nick Merckx, who's currently on Phase, didn't make it. Cypher PK, another. I mean, really, really big names didn't make it, but I don't think it's going to affect it at all. Like, Fortnite is still a beast, and the player base that they have, this event in general is going to draw in a casual fan, and it's also going to draw in people like us who maybe don't watch Fortnite at an overly competitive level consistently. Just the number alone, it's like the international in terms of there's a lot on the line.
It's going to draw.
It's going to be an interesting watch. Yeah.
Optic J has officially resigned from his post as the top executive of Optic Gaming and Houston Outlaws ownership. Just on Friday.
For those of you that don't know, of Optic.
Yeah. So of course he was the one who had the target on his back once everything went to hell with Optic. He took a lot of the blame from fans that he pretty much sold them out, and so now he also pieced out, which is a bit interesting. I wonder if he just couldn't take it. Maybe he was done with it. So obviously there's no backstory there, but thought it was kind of interesting timing for him to go out. The Pittsburgh Knights, owned by TCR's own James O'Connor, friend of the show. Maybe the first guest we've ever had on. One of them.
One of the first, for sure.
Yeah, one of the first. Friend of the show, part owner for the Pittsburgh Knights, announced that they teamed up with Wiz Khalifa. And did you see at Wiz Khalifa's concert had a Pittsburgh Knights t-shirt?
Really?
Like for sale at the merch booth that said like Wiz or something. I don't know.
That's pretty awesome.
I couldn't tell you one Wiz Khalifa song, but
I mean, a cool partnership,
I know
right?
who he is. I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's pretty dope. He's good. They are going to get randomly drug tested, for sure. Wiz is all about the green, so that'll be a fun little partnership there. I wonder what he'll get him into. No, but cool partnership. I mean, again, just going to draw in another audience, right? If he's promoting him, that's going to be a group of people that didn't know about him before.
Absolutely. Pittsburgh native, too, so that's always good. And the inaugural season of Farming Simulator League will kick off this weekend at FarmCon in Germany. So,
You put that in there?
Very unfortunate for Fortnite World Cup to be going out on the same weekend as this future juggernaut of esports. Like, it's the World Cup's going to take a hit. Overwatch League 222. No one's gonna care when they fire up Farming Simulator League. So
With the changes Overwatch is
you hate
making,
to
I
see
wouldn't be
it.
surprised if they just pushed it back a week so they don't get interrupted by this.
You hate to see it. Just give it one league and then one season of the league, and then all of a sudden you will have franchising come into play, and people will say that's going to destroy the Farming Simulator ecosystem. And in other news, not happy news, not happy news whatsoever. The esports world did lose a legend uh, yesterday, as In Control passed away at the age of 33 due to illness. Don't know the specifics, but he was a legend in StarCraft. He played, he commentated. He was also just a popular Twitch streamer, YouTube personality. Uh, so 33 years old. You know, we've seen
Yeah.
this happen, man, where I think it was a couple weeks ago, you know,
Total.
on Twitter, he was
Oh,
saying like there was an infection or something. And so speculation is that, you know, wasn't gone and it just came back. And just like that.
you feel obviously for his family and friends first and foremost, and then the StarCraft community. To the losses that the StarCraft community has felt just in the past. I mean, when did Total Biscuit pass away? That wasn't even that long ago, and so
Yeah.
you start to man, like 33 for both of them, both super young, very well respected in the community. Um, you know, you just go on Twitter and you see how people talk about these guys, right? And that's the kind of legacy you hope to leave behind. Unfortunately, his was just cut too short, right? But
Yeah.
in a short amount of time here, um,
And you know it was unexpected too, because he even tweeted out like, "Man, my August September is looking packed." You know, like he had all these
yeah,
plans going on and everything. So just
he was like streaming just a couple
yeah,
days before that,
it's
like two,
just,
three
you
days
know,
before that. So
it's a reminder
you know,
just to let the, you know, let the ones you love know, and live life the way you want to live it, because it sucks, man. You just never know. You never know when it's gonna be your time, and you know, not only does StarCraft, but esports takes a hit, and just gaming in general. So, yeah, obviously a huge TCR stay hard for In Control,
yeah,
um,
for
as
sure.
as he moves on. So there's that. Sad news. And unfortunately, that's just how we're gonna have to end the show, because there's no
Yeah,
other news. So stay hard, In Control. And that will do it for this episode of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 167 is done. It's in the books. Appreciate you for listening, whether you skipped around or listened to the whole thing. Love you all the same. Love you even more, though, if you were in the Twitch chat, which we do every single episode. So be sure to get on that. Follow us on Twitter. Tell your family, tell your loved ones to follow the Center Ring. We would appreciate it. If you listen on iTunes or any other podcast app that lets you leave a review, make sure you leave that review. And guess what? Even if you don't listen on iTunes, leave a review. I'm pretty sure you can do that. So just do that. It helps. It helps. So I'm told. iTunes is a mystery. I don't know. But be sure and do that, because we do appreciate the kind words and the love and support. We will be back next week. We'll talk some Overwatch World Cup. We're going to talk how the Fortnite World Cup. Not Overwatch World Cup. We're going to talk Overwatch 222, though, and all that will be next week. But for Nuge, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.